Picture this, it's February 2nd, 2026. Outside the historic Gracie Mansion in New York City, the official residence of the mayor, a crowd has gathered. But these aren't conservatives, these aren't Republicans, these aren't opposition party members staging a routine protest. These are his own supporters, people who knocked on doors for him, who donated to his campaign, who believed in his vision of a progressive New York City. And through megaphones cutting through the cold February night, you can hear them shouting, "We know about your mom. We voted for you, Zohran. We advocated for you, Zohran. You lied, Zohran. Shame." What could make a mayor's own base turn on him just 33 days into his administration? The answer involves a massive document dump, a legendary filmmaker, and questions that go far deeper than one social event 17 years ago. I'm breaking this down right now. Let's start with who we're talking about here. Zohran Mamdani isn't just any politician. On November 4th, 2025, the then 34-year-old Democratic Socialist shocked the political world by winning New York City's mayoral race. He defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the primary, and then went on to win the general election. He became the youngest mayor of New York City in over a century, the first Muslim mayor, the first South Asian mayor, born in Kampala, Uganda, educated at Bowdoin College. This was supposed to be the progressive movement's coronation moment. And he promised them everything: free buses, universal childcare, a $30 minimum wage by 2030, government-run grocery stores, a freeze on rent, and critically, a fundamental reimagining of how police handle mental health crises. The Democratic Socialists of America mobilized between 90,000 and 100,000 volunteers for his campaign. Bernie Sanders campaigned for him. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez headlined his events. This wasn't just an election. This was supposed to be proof that democratic socialism could work in the heart of American capitalism. He was sworn in on January 1st, 2026, took the oath on the Quran. In his inaugural address, he declared, "I will not abandon my principles for fear of being deemed radical." That was 33 days ago. Now, flash forward to Friday, January 30th, 2026. The United States Department of Justice releases what they're calling the largest document dump in the Epstein investigation's history. 3.5 million pages. That's not a typo. 3.5 million pages of documents, including over 2,000 videos and 180,000 images, all related to the investigations and prosecutions of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. This was mandated by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, signed into law by President Trump in November 2025. The Justice Department had to release everything, with few exceptions, everything related to the Epstein and Maxwell cases, and buried in those millions of pages was an email. An email from 2009 mentioning a social event, an after-party following a film screening. The film was Amelia. The venue was a townhouse on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. The townhouse belonged to Ghislaine Maxwell, who would later be convicted of sex trafficking, and according to the email, several notable people attended this after-party: Bill Clinton, the former president of the United States, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, one of the richest men in the world, and Mira Nair, an acclaimed Indian-American filmmaker. Now, if you're not familiar with Mira Nair, she's a legitimate Hollywood figure. Her 1988 film, Salaam Bombay, was nominated for an Academy Award. Her 2001 film, Monsoon Wedding, won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival. She's a respected director, producer, and artist. She's also the mother of Zohran Mamdani. And within hours of that email being made public, protesters were gathering outside Gracie Mansion. Let me be absolutely crystal clear about something before we go any further. There is zero allegation of wrongdoing against Mira Nair. Zero. The document shows she attended a social event, a film industry after-party, in 2009. That's it. No accusations, no charges, no suggestions of any inappropriate conduct whatsoever. But here's what makes this story so much more complex than it first appears. Because this protest outside Gracie Mansion, it wasn't really about the Epstein files, not entirely. Listen to what the protesters were actually saying. "That's right, we know about your mom. Now listen, we was with you, Zohran. We voted for you, Zohran. We advocated for you, Zohran. We advocated for you, Zohran. You lied, Zohran. Shame." Did you catch it? We was with you. You lied. The Epstein connection was the spark, but the fuel had been building for 33 days. See, Zohran Mamdani's first month as mayor has been, let's call it, complicated for his progressive base. November 19th, 2025, before he's even inaugurated, Mamdani announces he's keeping Jessica Tisch as NYPD commissioner. Now, Jessica Tisch is from the Tisch family, you know, the billionaire Tisch family with their name on buildings all over New York. She was appointed by Eric Adams, and she architected the NYPD's massive surveillance infrastructure. This is the same Zohran Mamdani who tweeted in June 2020, "We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. What we need is to defund the NYPD." The same Mamdani who, after someone claimed they saw a police officer crying in his car, responded, "Nature is healing," mocking a police officer's pain. The same Mamdani who promised to disband the NYPD's Strategic Response Group, calling them an elite unit that had brutalized countless New Yorkers. He kept the billionaire police commissioner. His base was nervous. Then came the testing ground. January 8th, 2026. Just 8 days into his administration, 2 fatal police shootings in one night, one in Brooklyn, one in Manhattan, both involving people experiencing mental health crises. One victim was a 22-year-old Bangladeshi immigrant named Jabez Chakraborty. His family had called 911 asking for an ambulance because their son was having severe emotional distress. Instead of medical responders, NYPD officers arrived. They shot him at least 4 times in front of his family. According to the family, while Jabez was lying shot on the floor, police interrogated them about what country they were from and confiscated their phones. This was Mamdani's moment. His entire campaign had been built around the idea of creating a Department of Community Safety to handle mental health calls instead of armed police officers. He'd promised his supporters that he would fundamentally transform how the city responds to people in crisis. So what did he say? He said officers were placed in incredibly difficult and dangerous circumstances, and that they responded swiftly. Police Commissioner Tisch went even further, calling the officers' actions nothing short of heroic. The progressive base was furious. One comment on social media that got over 4,000 likes said, "Zohran blew it to levels I thought he'd wait at least 2 years for. Outrageous." He owes a huge apology to the Chakraborty family and to his supporters who elected a mayor who promised not to unleash state violence on people struggling with mental illness. But wait, there's more. November 21st, 2025, Mamdani goes to Washington, D.C. He meets with President Trump in the Oval Office, the Democratic Socialist mayor of New York City, meeting with Donald Trump in the Oval Office. And by all accounts, it was friendly. Trump came out and complimented Mamdani. They talked about areas where they agreed. Can you imagine being a DSA volunteer who knocked on doors for Mamdani, who was told he would be the resistance to Trump, watching him have a cordial meeting with the man you were told was the enemy? And then there's the policy. Remember that signature campaign promise? Free buses, the one that defined his campaign? Governor Kathy Hochul said no, flat out. "I cannot set forth a plan right now that takes money out of a system that relies on the fares of the buses and the subways." And what did Mamdani do? He backed down, just accepted it. The free buses that he'd promised thousands of supporters on thousands of doorsteps, not happening. The government-run grocery stores he'd promised, 0 opened, 0 even announced. The tax increases on the wealthy to pay for his programs, Hochul blocked those too. So when those Epstein files dropped on January 30th and Mira Nair's name appeared in that email, it became a flashpoint. Not because of what she did or didn't do 17 years ago, but because it gave frustrated supporters a reason to gather, a focal point for all that accumulated disappointment. Think about this timeline. Zohran Mamdani has been mayor for 33 days, and his own base, the people who elected him, are outside his residence with megaphones shouting, "You lied!" and "Shame." That's not normal. That's not standard political opposition. That's betrayal. That's what happens when people feel deceived. But here's what makes this even more fascinating, and frankly, more troubling from a broader political perspective, this isn't just about Zohran Mamdani. This is about the fundamental tension at the heart of progressive politics in America right now. There's a comparison that keeps coming up. Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, another progressive, another teachers union-backed candidate, another democratic socialist who promised transformative change. His approval rating, according to a University of Chicago NORC survey from August 2025, it sits at around 16%, and the pattern is eerily similar. Big promises during the campaign, massive grassroots mobilization, historic election, then reality, compromises, budget constraints, the messy work of actual governing, and approval ratings that crater. Here's the uncomfortable question that nobody in progressive circles wants to ask. Is this sustainable? Can you run on a platform of revolutionary change, mobilize tens of thousands of volunteers with promises of a fundamentally different system, and then govern pragmatically without losing your base? Because that's what we're watching in real time. During the campaign, Mamdani said police were a major threat to public safety. As mayor, he kept a billionaire police commissioner and praised officers who shot people in mental health crisis. During the campaign, he promised free buses. As mayor, he accepted the governor's veto without a major fight. During the campaign, he promised to disband elite police units. As mayor, he's done nothing of the sort. Now, from a pragmatic governing perspective, maybe some of these moves make sense. Maybe keeping an experienced police commissioner provides stability. Maybe fighting with the governor over free buses would have been politically unwise. Maybe responding cautiously to police shootings while gathering facts is the responsible approach. But if that's true, if pragmatic governance requires abandoning or significantly moderating your campaign promises, then what does that say about those promises in the first place? Were they realistic policy proposals? Or were they mobilization tools? Were they genuine commitments? Or were they just effective campaign rhetoric? And here's where it gets even more problematic. In the wake of the Epstein files release, AI-generated images started flooding social media. Fake photos purporting to show Mamdani as a child with Jeffrey Epstein, completely fabricated. Rolling Stone, The Washington Post, AP News, they all had to run fact checks debunking these fake images. So now you've got this toxic mixture, legitimate policy disappointment from the base, an Epstein connection that, while innocent, creates terrible optics, and a flood of AI-generated disinformation making everything worse. As I'm recording this, we're now 4 days past the protest. Mamdani has made some public appearances. He's defended his mother, rightfully so. He's reiterated his commitment to progressive policies. He's tried to assure his base that the vision hasn't changed, just the timeline. But the trust issue? That doesn't have an easy fix. Because here's what happens once your own supporters start showing up at your residence with megaphones, once they're shouting that you lied to them, once the narrative becomes promising, radical, governing, conventional, every decision gets scrutinized through that lens. Every compromise looks like betrayal. Every pragmatic move feels like selling out. Just ask Brandon Johnson. His 16% approval rating didn't happen overnight. It happened through 1,000 small disappointments, each one individually defensible, collectively devastating. And Zohran Mamdani? He's got 4 years ahead of him, 1,427 more days as mayor. And if his own base is protesting outside Gracie Mansion on day 33, what's day 500 going to look like? Day 1,000? The Epstein files may have been the spark, but the tinder was already there. And it's still burning. So let's bring this all together, because this story is about so much more than one email and a massive document dump. What we're watching is the collision between revolutionary rhetoric and incremental reality, between movement politics and governing, between what activists demand and what mayors can actually deliver. Mira Nair attended a film industry party in 2009. That's a fact. There's no evidence of wrongdoing. She's an accomplished filmmaker who was networking in Hollywood circles. That's what people in her profession do. But her son is now the mayor of New York City, and his supporters feel betrayed, not primarily because of his mother's social calendar 17 years ago, but because of his decisions in the last 33 days. And here's the genuinely difficult question at the heart of this. Should we blame politicians for moderating their positions when they confront governing realities? Or should we blame them for making unrealistic promises in the first place? Is Zohran Mamdani a pragmatist learning to govern? Or is he a politician who said whatever it took to win? Is keeping an experienced police commissioner wise governance? Or is it abandoning your principles? Is responding cautiously to police shootings responsible leadership? Or is it betraying the people who expected you to fundamentally change the system? I want to hear from you on this, and I want you to really think about it. If you were a DSA volunteer who knocked on doors for Mamdani based on his promises to defund the police and create free buses, and now 33 days in, he's kept the billionaire police commissioner and accepted the governor's rejection of free transit, would you feel deceived? Or would you understand that governing requires compromise? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just about New York. This pattern is playing out in cities across America. What I'm watching for, the next protest, the next policy test, whether Mamdani doubles down on pragmatism or tries to rebuild trust with his base, and whether that base is still there to rebuild trust with, because 33 days is a very short honeymoon, and the next 1,127 days are going to be long. When your own supporters are outside your door shouting, "You lied," the campaign is truly over, and the real test of governance has begun. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more political analysis. And remember, promises are easy. Governing is hard. Trust, once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back.